Located just north of Nashville in the remote region of Robertson County is one of the oldest and most haunted spots in American history, the Bell Farm, currently owned by Walter and Chris Kirby. It is the opinion of many that the Bell Witch Farm is haunted by an unexplainable force that unleashed a living hell for John Bell in the way of disembodied voices, strange sounds, spectral creatures, and violent physical attacks. John Bell, his wife Lucy, and their 8 children arrived in Robertson County around 1804. After 13 years of peace and prosperity, an unlucky number for John Bell, the infamous Kate Batts entered his life, after which neither the Bells nor the community of Robertson County were ever the same again. The most accurate version of the legend has it that the macabre events all began because Bell sold Batts a slave at usury interest rates, after which Batts confronted Bell with a curse. It was then that his life of horror began. The witch also attacked John's daughter Betsy and eventually caused the breakup of her engagement to her young fiancé, Joshua Gardner. As rumors of the witch's wrath spread, reinforcing her powers of fear over others, this drew the attention of the famous historical figure in American history. John Bell Jr. served with later-to-be President Andrew Jackson in the Battle of New Orleans. When Jackson heard of Bell's trouble with the witch, he went to investigate for himself. As Jackson's wagon team neared the Bell property, it mysteriously came to an abrupt halt. After a desperate but futile attempt to free the wagon, Jackson yelled, "It's the witch," as if in response to his acknowledgement of her existence. A voice out of nowhere shouted back, "They can go now, General, and I'll see you all later." Accompanying Jackson's party was a self-proclaimed boastful Rich Lair. It wasn't long after their arrival that the witch kept her promise, with Jackson and his men helplessly watching on. The braggart was sent running out of the house in terror. Later, Jackson would write, "I would rather face the whole of the British Army than the wrath of the Bell Witch." Finally, on the morning of December 20th, 1820, Bell slipped into a coma from which he would never awaken. At his bedside was a strange vial of dark liquid. It is believed that the witch's final attack on John Bell was to poison him. It seems she succeeded. Some believe that the Bell Witch was a form of outward thought transference of Kate Batts that resulted in a telekinetic power at the Bell Farm. Others now feel another force may be involved. Strangely, to this day, the witch has made several alarmingly accurate prophetic statements. She predicted the Civil War and the end of slavery in the United States, both world wars, and the U.S. becoming a world power. Could the Bell Witch's power extend far beyond the rural community in Tennessee? For her last and perhaps most disturbing prophecy yet to take place was the total destruction of our civilization. Internationally referred to as a supernatural headhunter and producer and director of Adventures Beyond, Bob Schott and his team journeyed to the small community of Adams, Tennessee to investigate the witch, or whatever lies inside the eerie and haunting Bell Witch Cave. Teaming up with Bob is Troy Taylor, president of the American Ghost Society of Illinois, author and leading researcher. Although paranoia about the Bell Witch still runs rampant in these parts, Taylor is one of the opinion that there may be something else at work here. According to Troy, the property was haunted long before the Native Americans arrived. Robertson County used to be the home to the mysterious mound builders, the Mississippi Indians who disappeared without a trace. The Indians chose their burial sites near places they considered to be closely connected to the next world.
This monument in Bell Cross Cemetery is dedicated to the lives of John Bell and all of his descendants, which are buried in this area. On the side of the monument, you can see some directions and an arrow here on the base, which points the way to the old Bell Farm, which is located right over there. You can see the top of the barn. That's on the property of the Bell Witch Cave. Now, directly just a short ways east of that is where John Bell and his wife Lucy are now buried.
Located deep in the woods and back of the Kirby Farm is the eerie and haunting location of the old slave cemetery and the original John Bell grave.
This is the center of the Kirby's farm here in Adams, Tennessee, the Bell Witch Cave. Back here into the woods is where John and Lucy Bell are buried, the cemetery along with slaves. So we're going to go back there to check out the cemetery. This is basically the center of the Kirby's farm, and this is Candy, their daughter. How far back is that, Candy? To where the cemetery is?
It's a little more than 100 yards.
In the earlier days before the white man came, the Cherokee, Chickasaw, and Choctaw Indians controlled the land, and much of Robertson County was a hunting ground. And before them were the Mississippi Indians, known as the mysterious mound builders, who disappeared without a trace.
This tombstone that you see where John Bell and his wife Lucy are buried here, this is not the original tombstone that was placed here. It was stolen sometime around 1951 by some teenagers from Nashville. They put it in the trunk of their car, and as they were driving away were in a terrible accident. One was killed, one was paralyzed, and one was hurt very badly. His sister took the tombstone out of the trunk of the car and went to bring it back to Adams, and not knowing where it went, left it somewhere alongside the road. So John Bell's original tombstone is still lost somewhere here in Robertson County. But this one was placed here in about 1957, about the same time the monument that we saw at Bell Cross Cemetery was also built.
What are these slave graves here?
Well, the previous owners purported that there were a number of slaves buried back here with John Bell's family. That's the historical records have always said that. Now, those graves were not marked with tombstones, they were marked with flagstones that were planted in the ground. Now, these graves that are close by here have either collapsed over time, or vandals or someone have dug some of these graves up, and they've left a little bit of a pit. You can see one of the stones over here, the way that they're stood into the ground like that as a flag.
Was this a dug-up grave here?
It looks like one, because all these graves, or all these collapsed holes here, seem to be marked with the flagstones, and it looks as though the bodies have been either dug up or have collapsed over time.
The Kirbys have found human bones on the farm, especially after their dog was dragging them home with him. They also found a pile of skeletal remains piled in their old smokehouse that had been taken from the old burial mound above the cave. Rosemary Ellen Guiley is a world-renowned best-selling author on the paranormal, metaphysics, and spiritual science. Her works have been translated into 12 languages and published around the world.
Kate Batts certainly is a player in this story of the haunting, but I think she has a lesser role than we've credited her for. Whenever there's animosity between people, especially back in those days, it was often laid up to the charge of witchcraft. I think that the disturbances from the burial site that was disturbed, are the leading cause of the haunting. And you mix in some other things, the animosity, and then a daughter who's predisposed to poltergeist phenomena, and voila, you have a full-blown haunting case.
This is a picture of the original Bell home, and this picture was taken in 1909. This is where all the hauntings took place back in the early 1800s. Now this house was torn down sometime between 1909 and 1925. This picture here was taken by us shortly after we bought this farm, and this was number 13 on the very first roll of film that we ever took here. Now this was taken down here in the sinkhole beside the house, and I was just taking a picture of the creek and the woods there, and this image came up, and if you look at this, it kind of looks like that of a face or a skull, and the farther away that you hold it, the clearer it gets.
This is the area, this is the sinkhole where your mom took that photograph, isn't it?
Uh-huh. She was standing right over there, and she was looking down, like taking the picture down creek, and that's when they got the weird picture.
You haven't been down this far before?
No, I've never been down this area. I've seen the sinkhole from the side of the parking lot, but never been actually down in it.
Chris, this is supposed to be right above the cave right now?
Yeah, we're right above the mouth of the cave, and this is an ancient Indian burial ground here. They estimate there's about 30 graves here, and the previous owners here had dug into some of these graves at one time, and they had an archaeologist come up here from Nashville, and because of the way they were buried, they estimated that they were somewhere between 3,000 to 5,000 years old.
I think the fact that the Bell Witch area is located over an old Indian burial ground has a great deal of significance for this haunting. We've seen many cases in the past of poltergeist phenomena, apparitions, strange lights, eerie noises, when Indian burial grounds have been disturbed, and it's quite likely to have happened in this case.
The sturdy and sinister iron gate that blocks the entrance to the cave protects uninvited wanderers from their own dangerous curiosities. It was here that Adventures Beyond made their first setup.
Well, this is the entrance to the cave right over here. So Tim's going to set up Mesa at the entrance to the cave while we go inside, and we left a voice-activated tape recorder inside. We're going to go up into the cave and set up in there. Now, Troy, you've been down this far before.
Oh, yeah. We were down here last night to set it up. Now, this area we're in right now is where a lot of these strange energy readings and the strange photographs come from here at the cave. In fact, the majority of photographs that have been taken here that have been anomalous in nature have been taken right out here where we're standing now, just a few feet away.
Tim, what is, describe Mesa?
Okay, MESA stands for Multi-Energy Sensor Array, and it measures a lot of different things all across the electromagnetic spectrum. I have all the way from earthquake kind of things, which is this here.
Seismic?
Yeah, it's a seismograph. And then I have static electromagnetic fields, and then I have AC electromagnetic fields, which will come out of this. Then I have infrared, visible, and ultraviolet light, and it measures it across the spectrum all at the same time, 40 times a second.
All right, well, why don't, you're going to make base here, so why don't we go ahead and go on inside then,
Okay.
and we'll be back in communication with you.
An archaeologist from Tennessee State analyzed human bones and skeletal remains discovered in the old smokehouse found on the Kirby farm. The bones were authenticated as being from 1,000 to 2,000 years old. It is said that the witch once identified herself as the spirit of an Indian whose grave had been disturbed. If this is true, could this be what is responsible for the strange activity in and around the Bell Cave?
Well, we're in the first part of the cave here, and the rains over the last few days have caused this cave to flood out, as you can probably see. Right now, we're in the first entrance, which is basically underneath that Indian burial ground, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very close. Interesting that the burial mound happens to be right above us. And when the Indians reburied the body of the Indian woman they found when they were building the road, they chose this particular spot to do it in. It fits real well with the theory that I had that some of the sightings and some of the energy things that have turned up on film from this cave may link it to some sort of interdimensional portal. Now, the Indians always felt when they chose a burial place, they always tried to choose a place that was more closely connected to the next world. Well, in our way of thinking, that connection to the next world could be some sort of portal. If the Indians chose this spot, that might make this whole area a haunted spot. Not maybe haunted in the traditional sense, but haunted in the fact that there are all sorts of entities and that sort of thing present in this location.
Well, there's no question that they're picking up strange, anomalous apparitions on the photographs from various different types of films,
and
Polaroid.
people report even seeing these things.
And hearing them. Yeah, well, it's flooding out big time now. The low-frequency microphones are just going to pick this up here.
Picked up nothing but water.
Right.
They found this Indian grave in the bluff of the river, and they were building a bridge across Keysburg Road, which is the road that's in front of our farm. They had an anthropologist come down from Bowling Green, Kentucky to look at it, and he said it was about 200 to 250 years old. And it was the skeletal remains of a young Indian girl that was shot in the chest, because they found a lead ball on the bottom. And they were going to have this put in a museum, but the Indians got upset about it. So they had it reburied down here in the cave, and then one night vandals broke in and stole the remains out of it, so it's been left open.
I think there are a number of factors involved in the Bell Witch haunting, and a disturbed Indian grave is certainly an important factor. Whenever there's a haunting, there's a disruption in the psychic field in a geographic area. A disturbed grave site is the cause of a very big disturbance in the psychic field, and it does contribute to haunting phenomena. There are some other factors involved here, but the grave site is one of the leading causes.
We've got the electromagnetic field meter in there.
A lot of psychics say they pick up a lot of energy coming from that hole, and they say that this being, I guess you could say, stays in there.
Little did the team realize, as they were entering the Indian room of spirits, something may have been disturbed by their presence. The photo seen here was taken as the team entered the first corridor of the cave. The strange ball of light was not visible to any of the team, and it was not a reflection of any kind. As the team neared the first chamber of the disturbed Indian grave, beneath the Indian burial ground above.
The Omega 521 here was giving me a temperature reading between 59 and 56 generally going through the cave. I got one sudden drop that was kind of quick, and it also seemed to move out pretty quick, and I went back up between 55 and 59.
Now Troy, you're getting a different reading on yours, right?
Yeah, mine's reading a little higher than yours was, and I was reading in the low 60s in most areas in the cave. I did get one sudden drop right around the corner, which is about 52 degrees. It didn't stay for very long at all, and then suddenly it was gone. So whether it was a fluke or something that moved out of our range very quickly, as it did with pins, we'll have to see.
What you were seeing was not visible to the team as they were in the corridors of the cave. It only appeared on a special Generation 3 night vision unit, connected to a low-light sensitive video camera using a special infrared filter. Notice how the doorway effect is emitting some sort of energy pattern both vertically and horizontally. It was later submitted for analysis to two major independent corporations that specialize in infrared and electro-optics, and are manufacturers and providers of advanced defense technologies for the United States military. Although neither company would go on camera to disclose their findings due to their sensitive relationships with their government and military clients, the following statements were issued to Bob Schott. I have no explanation for the vortex or energy doorway. It is truly an unexplained phenomena. B.E. Myers, Electro-Optics. With regards to the translucent frame sliding doorway effect, I have no viable explanation for this phenomena. Alan Harding, Lytton Electro-Optics. Now look carefully at what appears to be face-like apparitions that appear and disappear in a fraction of a second as the energy pattern passes to the right.
When we have cases of disturbed grave sites that cause hauntings, it's generally an indication that the spirits of the dead are unhappy. And there are only certain ways that the spirits of the dead can access the realm of the living. They would have to come through some sort of gateway between dimensions. This might manifest in electromagnetic equipment such as film or sensors, this kind of opening where the energy passes back and forth. When a gravesite has been disturbed, we quite often find a rip in the veil between the worlds, the spirit world and the world of the living. And this rip enables energy to come through, and quite often to give us poltergeist phenomena, attacks, entities that might manifest with malicious personality, strange noises, pinchings, objects manifesting, troublesome kind of activity. The dead are disturbed and they want to be laid to rest.
Was the team being watched? Was it the spirit of Katie Bell or the spirit of the Indians buried above the cave of years ago? Whatever forces were at work here in the mysterious Bell Witch Cave, many believe that the Bell Witch never left Robertson County. While Mesa picked up a few spikes at the entrance to the cave, while the team picked up some moderate drops in temperature inside, Mesa and the rest of the equipment, along with the entire team, are about to be put to the test as Adventures Beyond journeys to their next location, a secluded cemetery in the Midwest. In a remote, secluded region of the Midwest, at a location referred to as Graveyard X, the most intense and dramatic seance ever captured on video is about to take place. Although little historical background is known about this graveyard, which dates back to the 1800s, it may very well prove to be the most haunted and actively charged location in the Midwest. Using the multitude of advanced technology, Adventures Beyond, joined by Troy Taylor, Tim Hart, and other members of the American Ghost Society, are about to confront and capture what may be the most astonishing and credible evidence ever recorded of the existence of the supernatural. What you are about to take part in is considered by many as a breakthrough in the discovery of new paranormal frontiers and actual communication with what lies beyond.
The cemetery was started in the 1860s. A passing wagon train, of all things, a child died on the wagon train, and a local farmer buried her here on a hill in the cemetery, right over here behind us, in fact. And the cemetery started up around that. It was brought to my attention about a year ago by a fairly local man who had heard stories about strange lights here in the cemetery. He came out here, took some photos, and came back with some pretty amazing stuff. We came out after that, and every time we've been here in the cemetery, we have taken some pretty incredible photographs of what it is we don't know.
Strange, unexplained balls of light have been captured on film around the gravesites. But whatever it is, Adventures Beyond is about to find out.
Well, when we first arrived here, while we were setting up, we've got some interesting readings off of our equipment. This is an Amiga OS 521. It's a very sophisticated infrared thermal gun. And what it does is it records sudden temperature changes instantaneously. And the temperature right now, right outside here, is about 75 degrees.
Which is interesting because we've come up here with similar equipment, used it, got the same kind of temperature drops from 50 to 60 degrees less than what it should be, and we've been able to use the thermal scanner and the camera to come up with some pretty incredible proof that there's something bizarre about the cemetery.
Usually, one of the things that are associated with paranormal phenomena are sudden changes in temperature. Normally, although one would think that cemeteries would be the ideal place, they're usually the least likely place where you pick up phenomena. But in this case, it appears that there's some anomalous energy factors that are taking place here. So we're going to set up, we're going to take some readings, and we'll see what happens.
The photos you are seeing here, which were taken by Troy Taylor just prior to his investigation, along with her negatives, were personally submitted by Bob Schott to Kodak's Technical Analysis Division for examination. The phantom cloud-like images appearing in these photographs were taken under perfectly clear skies and were not visible to the eye at the time. The next series was taken just before Adventures Beyond's actual seance at around 9:15 p.m. The next photo you are about to see, which was taken by Troy Taylor months prior to this investigation, may be one of the most remarkable photos of what could be a real energy apparition ever taken. The photos were returned with no explanation for the apparitions. The results were as follows. The film was manufactured correctly and without incident, as indicated by the edge printing, which is the film identification and frame numbering on the edges. The normal density of the edge printing on your negatives indicates the film was capable of recording consistent quality images and was processed correctly, and no explanation was given. But the most shocking discovery is yet to come, as it appears that whatever this image is, it is about to make another appearance.
Mesa set up, Tim?
Sure is. She's ready. She's running. I have a 60 hertz magnetic field meter, and I have infrared, ultraviolet, visible light, a seismograph, and a static EMF meter.
What's the range on the EM?
That's 0 to 0.5 hertz.
And the magnetic?
The magnetic is on 60 hertz.
Well, this is the area where Troy said he picked up most of the anomalous phenomena, so hopefully we'll get some readings.
Hope so.
All right, well, let's get some of the gear out, and we'll check with you. If you see anything, holler.
Okay.
What we're going to try here is a simple seance. And don't worry about not doing this before, because really there are no such thing as experts in this field, no matter what they say. I don't care who they are. And the whole idea is this: we're centrally located to the area of phenomenon that Troy has picked up on many occasions. So the whole idea behind this is to see that if any of this energy that we're picking up on recording devices, and he just got a spike on Mesa, which we'll have to analyze later, has any intelligence behind it. This is not a surefire method, but it's one method of communication. So what you want to do is each of you put your fingers on it very, very lightly, on the edges. On the edges. And some of the reasons for that, and I'll show you, are, as I showed you before, Charlie. For example, if I'm here, each of you trust each other, and this is, no one's here to try and pull any games. So if I am trying to manipulate it, see what happens? Because it's on the edge. But if I'm in here, see, I can do this, see, even no matter how lightly you are. But if I'm on the outside and try and do that, that's what happens. So what we're trying to do is, for the audience that's watching this, try and you know, let them know that we're trying to eliminate any manipulation possibilities at all. So just very lightly touch your fingers on it, and we'll just go through a series of questions at random, and we'll see what happens. Now here we have an electromagnetic field meter that's set up on sum, which means the electric and the magnetic equals a sum. We have a low frequency microphone, and just for visual purposes we have a simple standard compass. So let's start, and let's ask a few questions. We'll go counterclockwise. We'll start with, I'll ask a few, and then we'll start with you, Teresa, and then Nancy, and then Charles. One of the questions might be, we want to see if there's any intelligent energy forms here in this general vicinity. And if there is, please identify yourself.
Little did they know that what was about to appear may be something from beyond, as when they knocked, something answered.
Okay, Charlie, put your fingertips on it a little bit more, right on the edge. Teresa, you too, just very lightly, a little bit higher, up top here. There you go, perfect.
Troy's getting about a 4-degree reading in this area.
Okay, we're picking up a 4-degree reading in this area. Is there something trying to communicate with us? Troy, give me your readings as they come in.
And my light is going down here. I might have to replace it.
We're at 5 degrees, 7 degrees.
I feel a chill on my back.
Okay, something's coming through. Okay. Are you an energy form that's trying to communicate with us? Okay, keep this rolling. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the night scope on, and we're going to shut the camera off. And Charlie, Nancy, Teresa, stay where you are, and we'll keep the questions going. Okay, the temperature started to drop, right? Off, please. We're rolling, and I can see the board very clearly, folks. Okay. Nancy, ask it the question that Teresa and I asked it.
Are you trying to communicate with us?
Ask it, Nancy, if it's an intelligent being that happens to be trapped and would like to communicate with us.
Are you an intelligent being who wants to communicate with us? Are you trapped?
The cold's coming down lower, Bob.
All right.
Lower than it was.
Are we getting an answer?
It's very slow movement.
Well, it'll start off that way.
Please keep trying. If you want to communicate with us, keep trying.
Listen carefully as a special low-frequency microphone Bob placed directly on the Ouija board picks up strange, unexplained interference. In several instances, in direct response to the questions being asked, it is thought that this may be some form of attempted communication with whatever is manifesting in the space around them.
Use our bodies as a channel.
Tell us who you are.
Getting close to gas.
We're on yes.
We are on yes.
We're on yes.
Are you on yes?
Yes.
Okay, now we're getting, it's found a way to reach you then. Okay, now, the question is, who are you? And keep asking it that. Give it about 3-4 seconds and ask it, who are you? Spell out your name.
If there's any energy forces out here, which we believe there is now, can you tell us what your names or name is? Seems to just stopped.
Are there other beings here with you?
Okay, and now on that note,
Many of the entities who answer such calls through seances come from the lower astral plane, and they're kind of trickster entities. They play jokes, they like to have fun with people, sometimes they get malicious, but I wouldn't put a whole lot of faith in the accuracy of their answers.
Are there any entities that would like to come through and communicate with us tonight? Are there any of you who would like to communicate with us tonight?
Every time they asked a question on the Ouija board, we had a definite visible light change every time.
has that happened to you before?
No, not like that, not that drastic.
What kind of readings were you getting?
Oh, it would go up and then it dropped way down and then it would go back up again, and something is changing it, but I can't tell you what it is because all we have is moonlight. The moonlight is not changing.
What kind of reactions were we getting on specific questions?
We were getting some serious spikes off of our baseline to, are you female? Are you alone? And are there others? And they were serious changes.
On those three questions?
Yeah.
The presence of discarnate entities is associated with sudden drops in temperature. That kind of reading on the equipment I would take as the presence of something that was manifesting in space.
Do you guys feel it?
I feel it.
Feel what? Did the team wake something in the graveyard? Was what Troy felt just a prelude to what is about to happen?
Mike, if you get anything at all unusual, yell at me.
I sure will. Right now it's just been flat line.
Although the first half of the seance has obviously disturbed something, Adventures Beyond had no idea of what was about to manifest in the next several minutes, as every piece of sophisticated equipment is about to be tested.
Are you a female?
You just got a reading in the UV range.
Keep it up. One more time, Teresa.
Are you a female?
The report graphs from MESA appear on the screen indicating the various erratic and unexplainable spikes recorded on the different sensors during the seance.
Are there more than one energy forms in this area?
We're down 22 degrees now, right above you.
Are there more than one energy forms in this area?
It's really moving quickly.
Are there more than one energy forms in this area?
22 degrees, 21 degrees.
Mike, what are you getting? Are there more than one energy forms in this area?
Right on my back.
Well, you got 20 degrees.
Are there more than one energy forms in this area? Yes or no? Are there more than one energy forms in this area? We're here to try to communicate with you. Yes or no? Are there more than one? Are there more than one? Are there more than one energy forms in this area? How many energy forms are there in this area?
I mean, like really bad, like a knife.
Keep your fingers on it.
Right here.
Get that reading on him, Troy. What do you got, Mike?
19.
Right here on
Are
my
you
corner.
rolling 10?
Yes, I am rolling.
My left
high.
shoulder.
Okay.
We have a 22 degrees here.
Amy, come over here and fire off on with that 4 lens.
How many
Right
of
there.
you are there?
Mike, what are you getting?
You're getting a small little reading in visible light.
I can feel there's
Are you
definitely...
trying to tell us that you are a female? Okay, Teresa. Are you trying to tell us that you are a female? Are you trying to tell us that you are a female? Are you trying to tell us that you are a female? Are you trying to tell us that you are a female? What do you got, Mike?
Whoa, I just went up to 90.
Okay, hand it here. Amy, thank you very much.
What is your name?
What is your name?
What is your name? What is your name?
Sitting at 16 degrees.
Can you spell your name for us? What is your name?
What is your name?
Can you spell your name for us?
I think it's, whoa,
We're at 15 degrees.
I know.
Can you spell your name for us?
Maybe she can't read or write.
Yeah.
This could be.
What is
Can
your
you-
mark?
Can you spell
I'm getting 25
your
degrees
name
on the Amiga.
for
I'm
us?
getting 18 degrees right now.
I'm getting a major chill right
23
here.
degrees
Can
on the
you
Amiga.
spell your
Ken, are
name
you
for
picking
us?
this up?
I am.
Are we on camera?
Yes, I probably...
Can you
I'm getting
spell
I'm getting
your
13
name for us?
degrees. Can you read this?
I can zoom into it.
Zoom in on
Can
that
you
reading that we're getting. This is
spell
the
your
Amiga.
name for us?
Steady, please.
That's the reading we're getting off the Amiga.
Okay, we're on a no.
Thermal
She
gun.
can't spell her
Are we
name.
correct?
And I can't see that, but I'm getting.
Are we
there you
correct
go.
that you cannot spell your
24
name?
degrees right there.
Are you a child?
17.
Yes.
Are you a young child?
Are you a child?
Okay, we're getting.
Are you a
what are we
child?
getting? 19.
Are
It's
Are you a
fluctuating.
child?
Are you guys doing this?
This should
No.
be.
No. Are you a
Are
child?
you a child?
Yes.
Are you a
Are
child?
you a child?
Are you a child? That's right in my
Child.
face. It's right in my face.
Are you a child?
Are you a child?
Are you a child?
Okay, 25
Are
degrees.
you
Are you
a
a
child?
child?
20 degrees.
Are you
Mike, what did
a
you-
child?
Getting a waiver, invisible light.
Are
Are
you
you a child?
Bob, tilt it towards me. That's
Are you
Are you a child?
What are we getting?
19 degrees.
Are you
you
a
a
child? We think it's a female
It's a
child,
female
Bob.
Female
child.
child? Well, then it's going to have a difficulty spelling anything out if
It
that's
said
the
it
case.
couldn't spell its name.
Said it couldn't spell its
You're
name.
going to have that problem with it.
How old are you?
Good question.
17 degrees.
How old are you?
Whoa. How old are you?
No,
No,
I am not. How old are you?
And tilt that towards me, Bob.
Well,
How old are
I
you?
don't know how old it is. This might
Doesn't
be
know how old.
No,
How old are you?
Getting 26 degrees.
17 degrees.
How old are you?
Caught that.
It says no.
Good.
It doesn't know how old
Doesn't know
it
how old it is. Do you know your name?
We can't
is.
spell
Do you
it.
know
Know
your name? Do you know your name?
About 15 degrees.
You can tilt it down, Bob. Thank you.
Do you know your name?
I got a major chill right here.
Do you know your name?
Yeah, it's 21 degrees up your back.
Mike, what are you picking up on the
Do you
Mesa?
know your name?
Picking up invisible light, moving.
Do you
picking up
know
visible
your
light moving?
name?
That visible light. We got 14 degrees on Charlie.
Do you know your name? Do you know your name?
Okay, we've got 19 degrees here on the Amiga, 17 degrees, 11, 10, 9, 12.
On that
She knows
We
her
went
name.
down to 9 degrees.
She's a
She knows her
child.
name.
She knows
She's a
her name.
child.
And she's a child.
Are you alone?
thing. Tilt that towards me.
Keep that going, Teresa, just
Are
like
you
that.
alone?
Towards me, Bob.
At 12 degrees on
Well, if I
Charlie's
told
back.
towards you, I'm
Are
picking up
you
their faces,
alone?
so you're going to have to do the best you
What'd you
can.
say, Mike?
The lower I get, I'm focusing right on it. You get
Are
that?
you alone?
Okay.
Very tough to know what I'm getting all the numbers.
No.
Are you alone?
14 degrees, 20 degrees, 14 degrees.
Are you alone? I have a really cold spot right on my shoulder, my left shoulder. Are you alone?
You didn't know it.
You probably got about, you
She
got about
doesn't know how old
12.
she is.
She's not
Not
alone.
alone.
Probably taking more than that,
She's
right?
not by herself. She's
She's not alone.
Okay, now we're getting somewhere.
Are you the girl from the
Okay,
wagon?
there you go.
Are
That's
you the girl
question.
from the wagon?
And
I'm
gonna
picking
hit the
up. I'm
light
picking up
here.
below.
Are
I'm
you
picking
the
up below
girl from the
freezing
wagon?
temperatures here.
A seance is an open invitation to whatever is out there. And when you ask the question, is there anyone out there or anything out there that would like to answer? Well, of course there is. But the trick is the entity that answers what it says it is. Quite often these astral beings are malevolent, they're malicious, they're deceitful, or they just like to play with people. And they'll tell you whatever they think you want to hear just to get in on the action. When you send out a call to the astral plane for anything to answer, it's anybody's guess what can respond. It might be a discarnate spirit, someone who's died, who wants to play a joke. It might be a low-level astral being, what we call a demonic kind of energy, poltergeist energy. These are the most likely things to come through in a case like this.
Mike, when the activity started to pick up on the Ouija board, Troy and I were getting drastic temperature readings. I mean, they were very erratic. You were hollering at me that you were getting a spike.
Yeah.
What were the readings on Mesa?
We were getting readings that went above our baseline reading.
Which is 0?
Which is 0, yes. Baseline 0, anything that goes above or below that is a reading to us.
And when did that spike occur?
It happened when you asked questions and when Teresa asked questions.
And wasn't there a point when I was standing right in back of Teresa when it started to pick up the most?
Yes, towards the end.
Tim, have you had that happen before?
Nope. It's too drastic of a change. I've never seen it before.
What do you analyze that as being then? Because you have multiple receptors that are plugged into MESA. You've got seismic, you've got UV, you've got electromagnetic.
Right.
Is this something we're going to have to analyze later?
Yes, to see if there was any sensitive little movements in any of the other fields.
How do you read it right now? What's your on-the-spot analysis?
Our on-the-spot analysis, interesting. It's really interesting, very interesting.
So you're going to analyze this and we'll find out what we're talking about later on? Okay, during the Ouija board, Teresa, what did you feel? Because I noticed you said that you moved a little bit and you said you felt something on your back. Describe that for me.
It actually felt like a cold spot, almost. I mean, it was a very specific area, a very small area, but it felt ice cold to me.
Very focused?
Yes.
How many times?
It was constant. Once it came, it stayed for probably several minutes.
And when you had your hand on the planchette, did you manipulate it in any way at all?
No, I did not.
Very lightly?
Correct.
Okay, and you feel very comfortable about Charles, who's your husband, and Nancy?
Yes, I do.
That was just what we got was what we got?
Yes, I do.
What did you feel while we were doing that?
I didn't really feel anything specific, just a little bit chilled. But I felt more chilled after it was all over, and standing up, I just couldn't get warm. I was chilling all over.
And how hard did you have your fingers on the planchette?
Very lightly. I couldn't, you know, I just didn't press down hardly at all.
There was no way you could have moved it at all?
Not at all.
Troy, come here a second, because when I was in back of Teresa, we were getting temperature readings that were all over the place. I'm getting 14 degrees, 16, 23, 20. What were you picking up?
Well, what I try to do is angle from down low. You were aimed directly at the center of activity. I was trying to get just above it. And I was getting the same area you were, sometimes a little colder sometimes, but still in that same area. Anywhere from down to about 10 degrees up to about 14 degrees, but obviously a lot colder than it is out here.
What was interesting was when Teresa and Charles and Nancy kind of let up a little bit, we stopped asking the questions. The temperature on the Amiga was constant. It was constant.
Change.
And
it
yours
stayed cold, but it didn't dip or it go up like.
And yours was the same. Yours was constant too.
Just how it was.
And when we were constant, you were constant.
I was constant also.
No change.
Now, when we were erratic, I was reading them off and you were reading them off. I went down to 9 at one. Ken, wasn't I at 9 at one point?
7. I saw it go down to 7.
You got it. You got it on tape at 7, and that's when you started to peak.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Well, let's analyze all this and see what we've got. We've got various different photos that we took here. Amy, come here a second. When we were here setting up, it was about sundown. Amy pulled out her Polaroid and started snapping these photos. Did you feel anything in the area, or were you just taking general pictures?
Just taking general pictures.
Now here's here's one of the photos that you took. This was along around just before dark at around 8:15 or 8:30. Troy, isn't this similar to the phenomena that you were getting in some of yours?
That's the same kind of stuff we've gotten on 35 millimeter, and frankly, we've never gotten anything on Polaroid before. We've had that camera only a short time, and it's a higher end Polaroid. We hoped it would pick up some better stuff, and apparently it has.
After a lengthy analysis by Tim Hart and the rest of Mesa design team, the following are results of the sensor recordings during a seance at Graveyard X. The graphs shown indicate various recordings of Mesa for 6 of the sensor readings during the seance. Notice how they are all picking up a variety of activity. The ultraviolet sensor revealed activity at the same point where the seance began, approximately between 1 to 1.5 hours into the sampling. It jumps to almost 5.4 milliwatts per centimeter squared. Then it stays quite level until 1.5 hours, which is during the first break in the seance. It then goes all over the place after that. There is no apparent reason why the ultraviolet light should change like this when it is totally dark. It was unexplainable by Tim Hart and his associates. The raw 0 to 5V sensor reveals the voltage changes that occurred between 0 and 5 volts during the experiment. As you can see by the graph, there is a huge jump at about 2.25 hours into the experiment. This is also unexplainable. The most astounding and unexplainable readings from Mesa were recorded by the visible sensors. Between 1 hour and 1.5 hours is where it gets very unusual. It goes way up when it is dark. Then just after 2 hours in, it drops to nothing. This is where the computer was actually sampling data in the graveyard. It drops down to 0, then slowly goes past 50, then way up to 126 foot candles. According to Tim Hart, this doesn't make any sense. This is during the time of the seance. It clearly indicates actual visual changes. These are perhaps almost as unusual as the visible and ultraviolet readings. These three sensors measure natural Earth field changes from 0 to 0.5 hertz. The first goes up and then maxes out at 1.25 hour mark, perhaps right where the sensor began. The second one seems to max out just before the 1 hour mark. Then there is a huge drop at the 2.25 hour mark. This is unexplainable. The next sensor seems to bubble along, then jump as well at the 2.25 hour mark again. As you see by the combination of these graphs, they are all providing strange readings.
When there are severe disturbances with equipment or when temperature suddenly goes way down or way up, it can be associated with the manifestation of an entity, that is, some sort of discarnate presence actually coming into the space.
The anomalies captured using the Generation 3 night vision provides a significant and startling discovery. Look carefully at the face over the graves in the photograph taken by Troy Taylor on Kodak color film months before. Now take a close look at the exact same image shape taken with special night vision during 1 frame or 1/30th of a second when the camera flash occurred. The shape over Charlie's shoulder where he stated he felt a sudden chill and where Troy picked up a below freezing temperature reading appears to emulate the still photo taken in broad daylight. The video footage was later submitted for analysis by Bob Schott to 2 major independent corporations that specialize in infrared and electro-optics and are manufacturers and providers of advanced defense technologies for the United States military. While neither company would go on camera to disclose their findings due in part to their sensitive relationships with their government and military clients, the following statements were issued to Bob Schott with regards to the anomalous energy patterns captured on tape and night vision. As you know, B.E. Myers and Company had been a manufacturer of night vision for more than 20 years, and I believe we have a great deal of experience in analyzing images taken through night vision. I have viewed the video supplied and have no explanation for the black spot. This seems to be an abnormality and is not consistent with any known case that we have seen in the past. It is truly an unexplainable phenomenon. It was noticed that despite the flash being used approximately 10 times, the image only shows up on a small number of video frames in which the flash was being used from behind the night vision device. It is typical that once charged with initial flashes, the ion barrier film would no longer demonstrate the symptom until fully discharged. What is curious, of course, is that there is corroborative evidence from the 35mm film that this image was present. If the black cloud image was due solely to intrinsic issues related to the image intensifier, then it should have evidenced itself on the 35mm film. I have no solid explanation for what is seen on film. Alan Harding, Litton Electro-Optics. In addition, Bob had the Omega 0 S521 thermal temperature gun submitted for calibration before and after the investigation. The following certificate of calibration was provided stating exact specifications of accuracy. Newport Electronics Incorporated certifies that the above instrumentation has been calibrated to meet or exceed the published specifications. This calibration was performed using instrumentation and standards that are traceable to the United States National Institute of Standards and Technology and is in compliance with ISO 100121.
Sudden drops in temperature are part of many hauntings and are associated with the actual manifestation of an entity, a ghost, a demon, a poltergeist, spirits of the dead, actually coming into the physical space around you.
What did you feel during that?
I felt, at one point, I felt an icy touch, almost like an ice cube right here on the back of my left shoulder. I felt chilled several times, probably 4 or 5 times during our experiment with the Ouija board. I felt sort of an anger and sort of a distress, like unexplainable. Why, I don't know. Sort of like, you're waiting for a cab or you're waiting for, your plane's late at an airport or something.
Apprehensive?
Yes, very apprehensive.
How heavy did you have your fingers on the planchette?
It was very lightly. In fact, sometimes my hand would come off a little bit, and I think, I put it back on, and it just moved. I couldn't explain that. I couldn't explain that. It's kind of scary.
Why did all of the equipment simultaneously respond? Was something trying to communicate with Adventures Beyond? Were the troubled energy forms the dead calling out? Did Adventures Beyond actually make a breakthrough in communication with the supernatural? Whatever happened this night, one thing is for sure. Adventures Beyond knocked, and something answered.